So good afternoon, everyone. So what I'm going to present to you today is based on my field practicum that I have to do as an MVP student. So I should explain that I'm a Master of Sustainable Development student. I'm in my second year. I arrived from Brazil about 3 months ago. I was working in Alta Floresta in Mato Grosso. So first of all, I want to thank my committee, Claudia Romero, my chair committee, and Wendy Bartels, my committee member. My project was funded by the MDP, the Central Latin American Studies, and ICB, that's the host organization I work with. And my project is called É da Terra que a gente tira o alimento e tira o sustento, Governance and Power Dynamics in Family Farming in Mato Grosso, Brazilian Amazon. So I'm going to start with a little bit of context. There's a lot of people here that know where Mato Grosso is and Brazil is, but just for text, Brazil is this country. I was working in Mato Grosso, that is this big state here, and I was working in a little star that's called Paranaíta. That's the municipality I was working in, but I was working around this area of Mato Grosso, but I focused only in one municipality that was called Paranaíta because I had limited time, limited resources, and it's really far from one municipality to the other one. And I was based in Alta Floresta. So I drove, well, I didn't drove, but I went with someone that drove the car to Paranaíta. I couldn't drive there. Back and forth at least 3 times a week. And I did this travel one time to different municipalities. It was an amazing experience. So I'm going to start here. With who? So I work with ICB, Instituto Centro de Vida. It's an NGO that is based in Mato Grosso. I work in a specific project that they call Proyecto Redes Socioproductivas. The project works with 14, sorry, that's where my Spanish and Portuguese start. 14 associations and cooperatives and organized groups of family farmers. But I did only, as I told you, a study case with Coppervilla, that is a fruits and vegetables value chain that was located in Paranaíta. So a little mini background about family farming. The FAO defines family farming, including all family-based agriculture activities, is a means of organizing agricultural, forestry, fisheries, pastoral, aquaculture production that is managed and operated by a family and is predominantly reliant on the family labor of both women and men. The family and the farm are linked to evolve and combine economic and environmental, social, and cultural functions. So basically, family farming is any of these farming activities where the family is the one that has the works in the property and the ones that benefits from it. In Brazil, this is all the information taken from the FAO that is based on the Ministry of Agriculture in Brazil. They say that family farming is really important, that 80% of the cassava is from family farming, 20% of beans from family farming, and you can see the other percentages. So it's really important for the numbers. They have had these different programs and policies that they have taken out of over the years that in theory would benefit family farmers. I work specifically with the PAA and PNAE because the cooperative that I work with has a contract with PNAE. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that for you. So, my objectives. My big objective was to comprehend the power relationships and the dynamics among the different stakeholders along the vegetables and fruit value chain of Coppervilla in Paranaíta, Mato Grosso, to facilitate Coppervilla's understanding of market opportunities and potentially increase their power within the value chain and enhance relationships among multiple public and private stakeholders. So this objective changed a lot. As you all know, when you go to the field, and before you go to the field, a lot of things happen. And there was also a political change that happened while I was in this process. My project, well, the project that I work with, Redes Socioproductivas, is funded by Fondo Amazonia. And while I was traveling, a lot of things happened to the fund that the project was working. So when I arrived there, my project also changed because of the political changes that were happening in the country. That's something that I didn't think about. So one lesson there that I have from the field. Because I've always worked in my country, I kind of know what things could happen, but going to another country is a really different dynamic. So yeah, this is the final objective that I realized I had to do when I was there. The specific objectives was identify the actors and stakeholders that have a place along the value chain of Cooper Vida, determine existing relationship between the actors and stakeholders identified, identify underlying power dynamics, and propose alternatives to address power dynamics and enhance Cooper Vida's governance. So in order to explain you the different tools that I use in the field, I want to tell you a little bit about Cooper Vida. So Cooper Vida is a cooperative that was founded about like 10 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. They were founded by Usina, that is a hydroelectric that was created by Odebrecht, and they created these cooperatives and groups of farmers to sustain the people that was working in the hydroelectric usina. When they finished the construction, they left, and the farmers didn't have anyone to sell the products to. So the Cooper Vida started having a economic problem, and a lot of farmers got dismotivated and they didn't work a lot. So they started looking for new projects, and then ICB appeared in the picture for them, and they started working in how to potentialize the value chain and the different products that they had. They are working through it because it's been really hard for the past 5 years, but it's a cooperative that has a lot of like good management skills. The president is amazing. He knows everyone and he's super proactive, and he really believes on the work of working as a community and collaborative, so it's really good to see him. But they had a little bit of, they were in an unknown territory when they were talking about the relationship they had with the different actors and stakeholders, and how these dynamics that they had could affect the access to markets or access to production and different other things that we're going to see. So what did I do? So I did some instructor interviews. How I chose them? Oh, so because I told you everything changed during the field, it was a month of trying to understand again what was happening. I had to move really fast in the last month and a half that I had. So I couldn't do everything that I wanted because also the people that I wanted to talk to weren't available. So it was really hard to get contact with some people from the government specifically, but others were really cooperative, so it was good. How did I choose the interviews that I did? I talked to the person that has working with Cooper Vida all the time, that's called Luan. He's like the technician that is in charge of Cooper Vida, working with them, doing visits, and in general, in charge of Cooper Vida. Cooper Vida, I talked with the boards of directors, who are well informing how the cooperative is in this moment and all the process that has happened since they were created. I talked to 2 people from the governmental area. One person that worked in the Secretary of Education, but I'm going to explain why it's important, and another person that worked in the Secretary of Agriculture of Paranaíta. And I then talked to 2 young men and a woman who want to remain anonymous because they brought a different perspective of what Cooper Vida is in different areas, gender, and also the young people that are not being taken into account or considering or just talking about in family agriculture, even though they are important in this part. I did a stakeholder mapping to identify those specific actors and stakeholders that play a role. So I did 3 groups that also participated in the next activity that I'm going to tell you about. One was ICB, but it was divided in 2. The project coordinators, and the other one was the ICB team. I chose them because I was working with them, and the relationship they have with the cooperative is completely direct, and they can affect what they do or what they don't do completely. And I chose to divide it both because the project coordinators have one of the things that they told me that they were feeling is that the team and the project coordinators had a different vision of what governance was, what power was, and the different relations and stakeholders. So I wanted to see if it was true, and we're going to talk about that later. And finally, Cooper Vida with the board of directors to see who they identified as actors and stakeholders. And then I did a power mapping with the same groups. It was just to understand the power dynamics that were working. The same people participated in both, and we did beautiful maps that I'm going to tell you more about. And I did finally a participant observation. Actually, anything that they did, I read. And also because my Portuguese wasn't completely good, so I had to learn and hear them a lot. It was an amazing experience because that also brought a lot of observations that gave I think, like an extra push to my investigation. And I did Kumu, that is basically mapping in a beautiful computer data kind of way, the relationship between these actors and stakeholders. So how to do a stakeholder mapping? Yeah. So what you do, I'm not gonna talk step by step because that's this kind of presentation, but I'm gonna kind of show you. So these are the 3 maps that the groups did. That one is the project coordinators, here's the team, and here is Coppervilla. As you can see, are very different, and they all have different amount of stakeholders and actors. Was really interesting hearing them speak about each actor. So the first thing that you say is just ask which are the stakeholders. Like, you have to state the problem, and then you start asking questions about which are the actors, how do they relate to each other, are some of them more important than others, why? And then you start drawing lines and putting different words to understand how they relate. So it was really interesting to see how they put themselves. So you see there, Cely is like kind of the middle, and it's like the one that's more colorful and more important because they are the project coordinators. Here, they were all working the map together, so that's why it's not, doesn't have a right or a wrong. It's just like Coppervilla has a big house, and here you have Cely and you have all the members of the team that were working. Here's Repoama, that is a report that they're working with, but they don't put Cely, like they were talking, they were writing all the other actors near near Coppervilla and not Cely. So that's also a thing to be kind of aware of. And Coppervilla, well, you can see here, Coppervilla is in the middle, and every other actor just floats around and relates to them. After that, we decided to create one map with all the actors that they talked about, because it was easier than just talking about the different maps. So after doing the first analysis, to say so, the family agricultures were the one that were most important actors during the whole relationship. So that's why it's bigger and it's in the middle. And then you have the other actors. That part is the public sphere, you could call, so it's all the governmental entities. Here is the NGOs, and it's a very bigger. Repoama, that is kind of a mix between different stuff. Here is the private sector, the market, because they were really specific on distinguish the markets and the power that they have, and other universities and research centers. Sorry, I was thinking in Portuguese again. So how to do the power mapping? You have this map. You have this little, oh God, I forgot the word. Tips. You have the tips and you have these figures. Each actor has a figure, and you start asking questions about influence, interest, and they have to build a tower of power that you're gonna see in the next slide. And it's just to see how the amount of power that they give to each actor. That says a lot, because it's not just the amount of power they have, but the source of the power changes the amount of power each actor has. So here you see the 3 different mappings. They also group different actors in a different way, even though they already have the map. So you could see they could put, if I'm not mistaken, until 40 chiefs to each actor. Some of them didn't have any tips because they said that it didn't have any power. Another ones had 39, 37, 35. I'm doing the analysis right now about all that data, so I'm not going to show you results. If you are interested, you can stay tuned and see next semester how things work out. There's a lot of data, a lot of numbers, but it's interesting. And here you can see how they, so also one thing that I did is ask them to put from 1 to 40, because there were 40 actors that were identified, who had more influence over family farming being successful, and less influence. So you can see the numbers here, and that also has a relationship with the power, amount the power they had. And it was really funny when they were trying to discuss who had more power, who had more influence, because they weren't really being coherent. So they had to reorganize and go back and be like, okay, so this actor has more power. Well, yeah, so it should have more influence. It was really interesting hearing them. And something really funny happened and interesting is after, so I did the power mapping with the team and the coordinators before Fondo Amazonia was like in a pause. And Isabel had to do a meeting with all the farmers they work with. And they were explaining that because of the political changes that were happening and Bolsonaro's interest, they didn't know if they're gonna have more funds in the future. And all the farmers were like, oh, wait, what do you mean? That's our direct funding is from that. So before everything of this happened, the farmers talk about ICB and Fondo Amazonia like they were the blood of the body. They couldn't live without ICB or Fondo Amazonia. After this happened, I did the power mapping with the cooperative, and everything changed. The way they talked about the power, the way they talked about ICB, the state, everything changed. So that brought a lot of other questions and things that I have done, but now I'm just leaving it to future interpretations and future work. Just to show you a little bit about the power that they made. So here in Coppervilla, oh yeah, so I'm gonna show you here. So here you can see the light blue is the amount of power that they put to each actor. So in the Coppervilla, the actor has more power, the cooperative, and the families that are inside, and they put the number 1, so they have more influence in Coppervilla being successful and access to market and like that. And then they put the Secretary of Agriculture, and they put number 5, and they had 25 in amount of power. I didn't mention it, but I was going to mention now, is that because of the public policy that they have, the PNAE that I mentioned at the beginning, Coppervilla sells all their products to the schools in Paranaica. And this is because of the public policy that goes with the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Agriculture. So that's why they put amount of power, because they basically define the percentage that goes to the family agriculture. And then here you have the mapping, the power mapping of the team. They put, again, the same as Coppervilla, the more amount of power, family agricultures, and the cooperative. And then they put markets as the third actor that has more amount of power. And they were explaining that because if markets are the ones that define if they buy or not from family agriculture. And they also affect how the consumer sees and interprets family agriculture. And finally, the team coordinators, they were a little bit different, as you can see. So they didn't put the cooperative. They said that the families were the ones that had, between the cooperative and the families were the ones that had more power and more influence. Markets, to the roof, they were the higher, without a doubt. ICB, they put that they had a little bit of power. I was surprised because I was thinking that the coordinators were going to put that ICB had a lot of power, but this also happened when after Bolsonaro, then the things that changed. So that also may be one of the reasons. And the Ministry of Agriculture, because it defines a lot of policies that would affect family. So this is one, I just wanted to show you one of the maps, because I didn't want to start opening everything and changing. So this is kind of one of the maps that you can do in Kumu. This shows a map organized by the amount of power that the team coordinators said each actor had. So the black balls are the actors that had more power. The blue ones that you can almost not see are the ones that didn't have that amount of power. This has a really big database with a lot of information. And I'm going through that. So this is just to show you how things are going to be shown eventually next semester when everything goes right. So these are just some questions, ideas, and final thoughts that I have after my first and kind of second round of analysis. How can family farming organizations be resilient in the political context in which they live? The project coordinators have different understanding of the actors and the team and the cooperative. Does this affect? Doesn't affect? How would it affect? Coppervilla changed the way they talk about the stakeholders after the Encontré Parceiros. That was what I was telling you about after the announcement that Bolsonaro made. And it changed really a lot. Power can be determined by the way it's shown, the resources it comes from, or within the relationships. So even though I read a lot about power before I went, every time I read the transcriptions or hear again the interviews and the power mapping, it just shows me that there's different kind of power and the way it comes to life. Does it affect the fact that every actor or stakeholder has a different perception of power, and how would this affect? So if I didn't do this exercise with all the other actors that they were mentioning because of time and also resources and other stuff, but so what happens if every actor has a completely different perception of power, an idea of the relationship they have? Does it change the way the value chain works? Does it change the market? Does it change the policies? And how would it change? And can we do something for them to be all cohesive and like in the same coherent? And they recognize two kinds of relationships with the actors, dependent and independent. So I mean, this also changed a lot after the encuentro. So how do you make, which is better? The relationships that are dependent from each other, or the relationships that are independent? And why? And how? And what can we do, or what can they do? Because I'm not exactly the one that's gonna change those relationships to make them the same. So these are just questions, ideas, and final thoughts. I really don't have a lot to show you right now, but you have to stay tuned. Next semester will be a beautiful presentation to allow me to learn as an MVP student. So you are all invited to that whenever it's going to happen. But for now, this is my presentation, and thank you very much.